Sunday. Side by side at the microphone, from the green light to the speed trap, Chris Switzer and Ray Carino calls them as they sees them, and you better believe them. Here! Relevant news, biased opinions, and outright bullshit regarding every aspect of automotive culture. Gasp at mechanical trickery never before revealed over FCC-regulated airwaves. Thrill to the explosive tension as Chris and Ray cuss each other down the track and barrel roll across the finish line, laughing at certain disaster as they shake hands for the devil. All that and much more this Sunday at high noon on the Motormouth Radio Hour. Call in and speak live with the Wizards of Speed and live feed, Chris Switzer and Ray Carino. Bring the whole family. Kids under 12 get in free. Every Sunday at noon on WHPC. Take the Long Island Expressway to the Meadowbrook Parkway and look for the sign saying no parking on the expressway and no express service on the parkway. Go right on Highway 24 to Garden City. $2 all-day parking includes Pit Pass. Sunday!
All right, get your mosh pits, get your rose hips, get your, well, you can get your AARP cards. If you do that, you're going to throw out your rose hips. You've tuned in to Motormouth Radio, Long Island's only automotive talk show, with your hosts, Ray Guarino and Chris Switzer, here on a happy Sunday. How are you, happy Chris?
I'm doing hysterically, Ray. Having a good time right here on this fine, upstanding Sunday afternoon. It's really nice out there. How about you?
It is, and I see we have MatcoMan Brian in the green room with us.
Yes, it's always good to see MatcoMan Brian.
Yeah, we're doing a little bit of a different show today. We're going to have Brian, and we're going to have Mr. Carl Anthony from. Get this, Chris. I just got this news today, right before the show.
What?
Carl is from Automoblog.com.
What?
.net. They're moving their website over to a .com site instead of a .net.
You mean it's now Automoblog.com?
Yes, it is. That's what I said, and that's correct.
Oh, yes. That is spectacular. Who'd he pay off?
I don't know, but we should get the guy's name, and do the same.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian, you with us? You got your ears on? What's happening? I see you. Are you listening?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm ready to go.
Right.
I got my bullet points. I got a list, and I got to get some answers from the man himself. So I'm ready to start.
Good.
We only have an hour. No time to play, boys.
That's right. And I got a piece I want to lead with, but I need my glasses. So hold on. Say something for a minute.
Yeah.
Where's your seeing eye dog, Ray? Where is it? Come on.
He's got
all those young people around there. I walk through the grocery store and I say, "Hey, can I borrow your eyes for a minute?" They look at you like, "What the heck?" So
that's why I have a 10-year-old now. Use
my girl stopped going to the grocery store because I had him read everything to me, So.
I don't know about you guys, but we're at that point now where I could be anywhere, in a shop, in a, anywhere, and a fellow be trying to do something and be like squinting. I'm like, "Hey, you need a pair of these?" He's like, "Oh, yeah. And they always work. They always work for everybody. Yeah. Everybody's glasses
carry
work.
spares.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got them everywhere. So listen, I want to do a little piece, Brian. I want to front end this before you and Carl came in, so we didn't take away from you guys. But we always talk about charging these EV cars. That's what our topic is going to be today, the EVs. And the problem is, in the city, in any city, you can't really facilitate charging because there's so many damn cars and you have sidewalks. Well, New York just came out with this fast EV. Is a bid in for this stuff. It looks like it's a poll. Let me read this. I'll tell you all about it here. Okay. It's a Big Apple-based electric vehicle startup, and they want to plant this network of ultra-efficient curbside trees that'll go on the city streets, and it'll recharge a car's battery in as little as 5 minutes. They claim.
Yeah, they claim. I don't believe that for a minute.
Well, it's Google-backed Gravity Inc. They developed the fast charging technology already, and it's in use at its flagship station at a parking garage on West 42nd Street. So they're doing it. They're using it already. They call these things deep trees. DEAP stands for distributed energy across points. Very cute.
Right. How clever.
The constraint is that they have to deliver a charge at a speed that's shorter than the dwell time, you know, with batteries, you talk about, we're talking about points on Thursday night in dwell time. And I think I maybe pissed off Paul a little because I knew what dwell time was and he didn't. But we're not talking about that now. They talk about the dwell time in the battery. And so if you can only be there for 30 minutes, let's say, then that car has to be charged in less than 30 minutes. That's an easy equation.
Right.
The charging cables can provide 200 miles of range in 13 minutes for its 200 kilowatt mode and 5 minutes for the 500 kilowatt mode. That's pretty stiff.
Now, let me just real fast, just 1 second, Ray. Just want to jump in. So we're talking about something that looks like a tree that's sitting on a sidewalk that's got cables hanging from it. That, okay, it just looks like a pole. That
Yeah.
looks.
Well, the thing about it is that arm articulates. It's like a gas pump. When you pull the gas hose,
Right.
that'll articulate and it'll go into the car. And they say at the end that one of the things they worked on was, what if somebody forgets and they just pull away?
Yeah.
That thing will release and automatically go back into position without any breakage or, you know, sparks flying. So they kind of
But this pole can only tend to one car at a time.
right now, yes.
Okay.
Well,
Well, Brian.
unfortunately, like I said, it made the news here, and I sent you the article to add on to this. Now that people are cutting the cables and taking them to get them recycled, they're taking the copper out of them.
Oh,
and because of the copper content and how big the wires are,
Sure.
that thing is there. But I also I was envisioning a fake tree, like Chris said.
They might
our good buddy Coach Isaac out in Arizona, they have fake
cell antennas.
cell towers.
cell towers that are cactus.
Oh, I remember the first one I saw was up on when I was coming down from upstate. It was off of damn, you know, I forget what, you know, when I used to go to Connecticut all the time on the Merritt, when I came down to Merritt, you get off the Merritt, what are you on, Chris?
The Hutchinson River Parkway. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was at a gas station, and it looked like this scrawny kind of Christmas tree. And I was like, no, it's a cell tower, and it's all the cell antennas up there.
Right.
It looks like that goofy kid you knew in high school that was just way too tall and gawky for anything. That's what it looks like. This sea of beautiful trees in Westchester, and this dumb stump, this green stump that's sticking up that happens to be a cell tower with these like fake leaves all over it. I'm like, who's that gonna fool?
It was nicer than just metal. But I think the gist of this article is that this charge time, and they're talking about levels, and they're talking about this technology is faster than so-called level 2 charge time, which can only give you 20 miles of range an hour. So they've actually amped this up. And what they say, that's according to their website. Well, they said that the long-term goal is to build a network larger than Tesla's current supercharger network. Okay, no surprise there. And the New York City Department of Transportation did not respond to a request, probably because the guys said, if I got to give you a comment, I want overtime, and they wouldn't give it to them. So, right. So the takeaway from this in their article is curbside charging stations for electric vehicles are still a burgeoning concept in New York City, and I'm sure others. The city has partnered with Con Ed to install 100 level 2 charging stations in the 5 boroughs. So that's kind of the newest and the greatest with as far as charging is concerned.
Well, I find that interesting because when I was going through, and I think this was in the Washington Post, you know, I didn't write down everything that I read, but they had just passed something like $353 million additional to help with charging and lowering the cost of batteries for this. And this is one of the things I want to bring back to Carl. But, you know, like I said, I find it so funny, even like now they're telling you, well, just get your charging because the last 20 minutes is the longest part of the charge. You know, you're already there for 20 minutes, but the last 10 or 15 minutes is the longest time in charging. But you'll be okay, but you have to share. So take this much and go on to the next place. And hopefully you can find a place that somebody hasn't stolen the cable or is working. So
that plays into that dwell time.
Yeah, I find it's funny now that we're supposed to sacrifice or we had to learn to share, and we all have a hard time doing that today. So I can't imagine somebody saying, "Oh, I've used enough. Here, you can take it now."
Oh yeah, right.
I find this. I never thought I'd find this all this fascinating, but when you start reading, and hopefully everybody will listen and stay tuned, because I'm amazed. Unfortunately, as long as our government's throwing the big three money, they're going to take it and do whatever they're going to do. But you're finding people now backing off on this EV stuff, and I want to know when's the explosion happening where they're going to say that's enough.
I want to tell you a little something about people sharing. A friend of mine recently asked me, he's cleaning out his parents' place. He says, I got a couple sets of brand new jumper cables that I can't see throwing out. Does anybody need them? I'm like, well, people don't really jump cars like they used to. I said, but you know what? I'll take them. So, Brian, here you are doing a major clean out. I told my wife about it, and she wants to know how come I'm not. And how come you're going to pick up junk today when Brian's throwing stuff out? And I said, because he has 2 sets of brand new jumper cables, and I'm taking them. And what I've done is I've used that wire to make grounds in the car with, because it's like double O welding wire, but it's fine strand. I was like, that stuff is great for making grounds. So Brian's throwing away. I'm still breaking it in. And I see we have our other guest in the studio. He made it in, Mr. Carl Anthony. Traffic wasn't too bad over the bridge, huh?
Yeah, no, not at all. As in the bridge from, down the hallway to my office here where I could connect via Zoom. So
Exactly.
yes. So there was limited traffic in the hallway, thank goodness.
Nice. Hey, listen, your wife could be there with a laundry basket and a cup of coffee, and now that's like hazardous crossing,
Or my cat is,
Sure.
running down like a Lamborghini, like a furry Lamborghini down the hallway,
Right.
And so yeah, but made it. Good to see you fellas, and glad to be back.
Always a pleasure, Carl. And I did make the announcement that now you're a .com site, not a .net.
We are a .com site. Yeah, automoblog.com.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was funny because in the beginning, I always wanted to say .com. I had to train myself to say .net. Now,
Right.
I'm going to blow it again because but
Yeah.
I'll back
Are
up.
you keeping the .net, Carl, or are you just
Yes.
you .com and .net? So we can't screw up now.
Basically it. Yep, basically it. When we started the site in 2006, .net was a thing. There were a lot of .net sites back then, and we just
Sure.
never changed over. But then we just kind of figured with our web development team, why not? We own the domain. We always own the domain.com.
Right.
It's a lot of web development work to switch over like that, but we finally did. And then if you go to automoblog.net, it just redirects to automoblog.com.
Very good. That's smart.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That is super smart. No, it's true. But when you talk about electric vehicles, Ray, and you brought up a really, really good point, and this is something I've always said, it is one of the major stumbling blocks is how do you charge a vehicle in a big city? I
Yeah.
mean, because you need land, you need space to charge a vehicle. And of course, being in Connecticut, being in an area where I think people are more environmentally conscious than most, every time I go past one of those charging stations on the Merit, like you talk about, they're always full. They're always full. There's always a line. There's always people. They never see one empty. There's always someone there. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a problem because with 400,000 electric cars being sold per year in the last couple of years, they have to charge somewhere. And it always takes an average of either 20 to 40 minutes to get that thing charged so you can get to the next charging station to charge a car. And I'm thinking there's something very wrong with this, and
Right.
nobody is speaking up about it. And yeah, I think a charging tree that charges one car on a block that holds 50 on either side, I don't think that's going to be
Yeah, they need to have that tree either be a multi-port deal.
right.
Listen, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Carl, you had an industry conference this week. Did
Yeah.
anything come of that in this regard?
Yeah, so that was more software defined vehicles, and not to throw a wrench in everybody's gears here, but there was a few years ago just in the industry, like, what is the future of automotive? And that was autonomous cars. And so that discussion went and kind of fizzled out. when we realized that it was just a much harder engineering challenge than anybody expected. Then we've moved on to electrification. Okay, electrification is the future. And that really is in the automotive industry. It's all moving towards electrification. But there's the software-defined car, and in my view, the software-defined car is what the real revolution is, because if you took it in sort of orders of magnitude, you're like, okay, let's start with an autonomous car. Like, that's the car way far in the future. It drives itself, the steering wheel retracts, the pedals retract. What is that car most likely to be? That car is most likely to be an electric vehicle. And that electric vehicle, what is that most likely to be? That is most likely to be a software-defined vehicle. And when we say software-defined vehicles, we just simply mean that the experience inside the vehicle is determined by the software that manufacturer implements. So Ray, Chris, and probably all of the motor mouth radio army, we would define a vehicle by engine and by horsepower and by torque and by those types of specs. Or if we have a convertible, dropping the top and having the wind come through our hair, because we grew up in an era where software wasn't in the vehicle. It was like, well, do you want a tape deck? Do you want a CD player? Like, that was as far as it got as far as infotainment went. Today, when we say software-defined vehicles, we're talking immersive infotainment experiences that somebody would say, well, let's say I want to get a Hyundai, or I want to get a Nissan, or I want to get a Ford, or I want to get a Toyota. That customer is just as apt to buy based on the software infotainment experience in the vehicle, the features that are offered by the infotainment system, as they are any other part: engine, powertrain, fuel economy, trim level, sunroof, heated seats, et cetera, et cetera. So to throw another wrench in the gears, my thought is that it's not so much electric cars of the future, it's software-defined cars of the future that just probably so happen to be electric cars, and then electric cars will just so happen to be autonomous cars.
Interesting.
I just read an article about that today where they were saying that China is looking to make another push. I forget what the names of the companies were, but they're trying to get in, and it was all based on the software, the software-defined cars, and that's how they were going to get come in with a cheaper price from the get-go, and then of course sell you like they do now. Then and I kind of have a problem with that. Like, I buy a car. Okay, you may say, well, that's great. I want FM radio, but I don't want AM, so I'll check that box. And I want a cup holder for Brian's Mega Coffee, but I don't want heated seats. And it's like play as you Brian. It's like the scanner that Matco sells, kind of the pay as you go deal.
Right.
And then you can add things on. It's all in there. It's all wired. I just want to see how long it's going to take the hacks to figure out how to get around it.
There's a ton of controversy on this topic. So last November, Reuters Automotive USA 2023, huge conference that Reuters does every year. They do one in Europe. They do one for North America. The North America one's coming back to Detroit here in November. But I was a moderator on the automotive tech stage. And so I was able to watch in and sit in all the discussions as I would introduce the next panel. And what I found is that the automotive industry is trying to figure out, well, what do we charge for? What can we charge for? What should we charge for? And do we reach a point where consumers are just going to get subscription fatigue? Because if you look at our lives, we're prompted to subscribe to everything. So there's a certain percentage of the population that says, when I'm in my car, that's my safe space. I drive home from work, I relax, I go out on a Sunday afternoon drive. Does that person really want to be prompted with a subscription every single time? And then cars are already expensive enough as it is. So Chris, Ray, MatcoMan, Brian, if I say to you guys, yeah, I'm an OEM, I'm an automaker, here, get my vehicle, but I'm going to limit some of the features and I'm going to put them behind a paywall. Chris, Ray, Brian, you guys might say, hey, wait a second. I'm already paying a high amount. This comes with the cost of the car. This comes with the cost of the vehicle. What do you mean that I have to pay to unlock XYZ features? That should be included. That's part of the car.
You know,
So that's the
Uh,
controversy.
you said that we're already trained in that because back in the 80s I had an analog cable box. I knew the Playboy channel was on there somewhere, but damn, I couldn't get at it until my buddy who knew how to hack these things
Yeah.
showed me what pots to turn, and guess what? I'm watching at night now. You know, so that's what I'm saying. I'm waiting to see. Like, we know guys who break walls down.
Right.
Not personally, not personally.
Good family
well,
programming today
that's
on Motormouth
that's
Radio.
Carl. Unfortunately, we've become, or the corporate world, they want that monthly subscription of hitting your card for 19.95, 9.95, or whatever.
Yep.
Right now, Walmart's in the middle of because of their high theft and people doing their self checkout. They now want to sell you a $99 a year to use the self checkout, or you can
Right.
stand. And of course, they have I've already seen it started. You know, they have 37 cash registers, but they only have one person. They have a
Yep.
line.
Yep.
It's
yep.
annoying.
So they're already training us to get upset and say, "Oh, I'll pay the $99."
Yep. Yep.
So that they can have them. And of course, they're driven for this subscription base. Even Target's talking about doing it. You know,
Right.
you want a better deal? Pay the $24.95.
Yep.
Mhm.
There's
You
some
know, and even if you do go or don't go, you're going to be hit. But
Meanwhile, the economy
it's
is, I mean,
crazy.
we don't have to get into that conversation how nobody has a lot of people, especially younger people, don't have expendable money. They're trying to put food on the
Right.
table, keep a
Right.
car going, keep a job, and medical. But you insert anything here, the country's in a mess over this, and now this is what we have to face next. So yeah, you know what? I was in my Fiat yesterday playing cassette tapes.
yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
They sounded great, and I'll keep doing that. Damn it.
It's
Yep.
I mean, I think that automakers might face an issue if their vehicles become so expensive that they're going to start pricing more and more people out of the new car market, which sends people into the used car market. But
Well, that was like the Ford dealer. The CEO of Ford says, "Hey, if you don't make over $100,000, you can't buy a new car. You
Right.
cannot afford a new car."
right.
Mhm.
So
He just released that. And I mean, this is
yeah.
again some of my bullet points to you, because I know you have more of insight. I can only dig around so much, and of course, everybody knows that when I start digging around on the internet, unfortunately, a redhead always shows up on the screen, and then my information gets a little
Good
sidetracked.
family
But
programming on Motormouth Radio.
I don't
yeah,
know. She's got
but
green eyes,
like I
and that's,
said,
okay.
I'm just curious. I see this starting of a fight back by these, from what the government. Of course, I know once the government throws money, they're going to take it and do whatever they're going to do. But I find it interesting. Hertz is going to sell off 20,000 of their EV cars and buy gas cars.
Wow.
Ford has cut back on their Lightning program or the pickup trucks. They stopped the GM Blazer because of software issues on the EV side. And now Audi's talking about, hey, we're not going fully electric. I sent that clip to you. I just wanted to know if you've seen any more fight or resistance or change
Yeah.
with that. That's where I'm going.
Yeah. Well, I think right now some of the discussion just in the industry is we may have, and when I say we, I just mean the collective automotive industry. We may have just
Yeah.
we just may have moved too quick. We may have been too ambitious. That this is very similar to what happened with autonomous cars, which we have discussed numerous times on this program. We put the cart kind of way before the horse, and it might be a similar thing here. We've talked about software defined vehicles and some of the things that we are kind of designing for. Maybe that's not what consumers want. And it might be similar with EVs, that we have created tech for tech's sake, tech for technology's sake. Maybe we didn't take into consideration the full scope of it. I think that really the main crux of the issue is whether they're gasoline vehicles, whether they're electric vehicles, whether they're powered by 4 hamsters on a wheel, no matter what the powertrain is, they've got to be less expensive. And I think this comes down to not that you have to decontent vehicles and start removing features, but you have to have a strong benchmarking process where engineers and cost estimators get together at the product development level and start getting very creative about how to remove costs from these vehicles, still keeping the same great features and the great powertrain and the access to all the different trim levels, if you want a sport, if you want a limited, if you want a base model, but really getting in and engineering cost out of these vehicles so that more people can enter the new car market. So Brian, to your point, when automakers are like, well, we're throttling back on this program, or maybe, we thought 2025, but now we're looking at 2028. I think it's a lot of that. I think they're looking and and new things have come to light, whatever that is, that has pushed that timeline back. We saw that with autonomous cars all the time. There were things along the way, good example, autonomous cars driving in severe weather, push the timeline back. With electrification, how do we have public charging? We maybe kind of solve in the cold. Okay, that pushes the timeline back, right? And then somebody else has to come and say, okay, here's the charging infrastructure. Okay, great, that looks good. Who's going to service it? Oh, that's another thing we have to address, and that pushes the timeline back.
I find it interesting, and like I said, I never thought I'd be this interested in this, but I guess it's just I guess it's the next step in the automotive world, and somebody that's always, had a car in one hand and a wrench in the other. I've always been to it, but I got this off the White House page, okay, and it was, of course, it started out with 2035. 0 emissions. I guess that was the clean word for electric, vehicles, 0 emissions. And then, of course, they had a new goal, which was out, I think this was like last year or the year before, but then it was to 2030. And they changed the wording to electric and plug-in. So we still had hybrids,
right.
Type thing, because they kind of, but that change of 5 years was because of the terrible climate control. We're going to save the world and make fake trees that are now chargers in New York. I guess I don't know.
Right.
Let me say this: in all of my when I had a career, I was always in an engineering capacity somehow, and sometimes I was in meetings where we talked about making products for consumers, and in my learned opinion, when you talk about low cost and an economy, like high features and low cost, the two never go together. It never works, because you're at two ends of the spectrum and you're saying, okay, we want the best of the best, but make it cheap. And that's the fight that management always has with the engineers, the design staff. And somewhere in the middle is what they come out with, maybe more towards one side than the other. It comes down to how bad do you want those features? Well, you got to pay for them. I mean, and even now with technology, battery technology, all right, I would say lithium-ion battery technology has been around long enough where they have the science down, but they don't have all of it down.
Right.
They don't really have a good handle on how to fight those fires. That's part of it. And how to deliver it in different temperature extremes.
Right.
So,
and if you have a truck and you have a large fifth wheel, or you have a large gooseneck trailer, diesel is your only option. That's the only thing that's getting you from, say, where I live in Michigan, across the country to go out to Yellowstone for a vacation with your fifth wheel. So electric vehicles only serve a portion of the population. And I think that's why, like, Toyota has been so clever with the hybrids to sort of have this middle stage of, okay, you want to dip your toes in, but you don't want to go full electric. And maybe you've been with Toyota for generations. You've owned a Camry, you've owned a Corolla forever. Now you have a hybrid option. But Ray, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's the challenge. I think that, high features, low cost. Yeah, it really doesn't go together. But the rapid rise of prices of vehicles to where a good majority of the population is priced out of the new car market, then you go, well, if automakers in the past have been a one and done, if I'm an OEM, Chris, you buy a vehicle from me, okay, I'm done. Now you go to my dealer and my dealer has a relationship with you, but I don't have any, that's a one and done transaction. So if a significant portion of the market is now priced out of a new car, the people that are in the market for new cars, you have to be able to take revenue from them somehow. And I think that's where the software defined thing comes. So it's like, okay, Chris, I've got you. Ray and Brian, you might be priced out of the market of the vehicles that I'm offering, but Chris, you can afford it. But now I got to try to get you with some software defined, some subscription features to make up for the fact that Ray and Brian are out of the market.
I agree. I
I think
totally
that's where
understand
it's
that.
coming from.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're doing the same plan as a cell phone for
Right.
your vehicle.
Right.
Because if there are features on your cell phone that you do not pay for, you simply get those shut off. You still have your cell phone.
Right.
But if you want to get heated seats on your electric vehicle and you have to pay a subscription for that, they just simply
Right.
shut it off if you don't pay.
Cable
So-
TV, and now streaming services. That's what they do at the.
Yeah.
I've been had my wife on the phone with the company complaining, and then it's like, hey, it's back. They push the right button. And Brian, you know that with the scanners.
And to take this just one step further, real quick, Chris, you're like, okay, Carl, you're the automaker. I love Anthony Motors. I'm a loyal customer of Anthony Motors. I'll buy your new EV, but hey, I gotta take a trip to New York. I want to see my friends. I want to see my family. I can charge at home and locally I know where to charge, but where do I go in New York? And I'm like, well, I don't really know. So I try to get in with a consortium of other automakers to help develop a charging network. And that's where these, not to use the Radiohead song, the title, Fake Plastic Trees, because it's no longer range anxiety, it's charging anxiety. So Chris, you go, okay, I'm all in on Anthony Motors. I want to buy your new EV. I'm not really worried about the range, Carl. It seems like your vehicle delivers great range, but I have a charging anxiety. How am I going to go to New York to visit Ray and Brian and see my friends if I don't know where to charge? And so this is the other side of it where, okay, now we're putting trees, and I've not seen this article, but it makes sense that we're putting some kind of charging infrastructure so that you can charge, and to eliminate that charging anxiety to increase consumer adoptions of EVs. But if EV prices don't come down, then a significant portion is outpriced, is out of that market, and now the whole circle starts again. Thank you, Ray. I see that picture. Yeah, the tree.
That's the tree that they're talking about in Brooklyn. Yeah, good luck. Well, you know what?
Those are kind of ugly looking.
I maybe that's a first draft. Who knows? I'm sure that they'll work on it. They'll make them graffiti. Put graffiti on it before they're done. Yeah,
Carl, it won't be the first ugly thing in Brooklyn, and it certainly won't be the last.
No. I think you still know a few ugly things in Brooklyn. Right? Anyway, listen, guys, we got to take a quick break. It's the bottom of the hour. I have to tell you, hey, today our weather is absolutely beautiful here in New York. It's cloudy early, maybe cloudy again, with some sunshine expected late. A stray afternoon thunderstorm, maybe. It depends where you are. High of 78. It's nice. It's actually almost a little touch humid. Cloudy this evening with a few showers. Of course, this weather is powered by Pantano's Gourmet with locations in Hewlett and Uniondale. And I should say that a show on this station that they like you to check out. We would too. The WHBC app wants to give you some PDQ chicken. Now, I've had that chicken and it is damn good. Download the app and click the Win Stuff button to enter to win a PDQ Beach Prize Pack, including a $25 gift card to PDQ, which means people dedicated to quality, with locations in Westbury and Farmingdale. So download the free app and good luck. Do we have any good luck with the honor group of the hour, Chris, or are we...
Oh, of course we do, Ray. Remember what show we're with? This isn't an obscure gardening show. This is Motormouth Radio. And at the bottom of the hour, we do the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour. We honor a bunch of people that do strange things with their vehicles. And this week, for Memorial Day weekend, if you had to go on a routine errand and took your classic car or hot rod to do it, did the wife have to send you out for salad dressing and a bag of apples and maybe a little barbecue sauce? And instead of dreading the trip, you decide to take advantage of that classic car languishing in the garage? Did seeing your muscle car in the supermarket parking lot surrounded by nondescript silver housewife-owned SUVs or electric cars, perhaps, and it made you just simply smile? Did you load cases of wine and beer in the trunk of your hot rod and feel this rush of self-accomplishment? Did you lay mature saplings in the back of your convertible in front of the Home Depot Garden Center because the wife wanted to do some gardening this weekend? Well, if you employed your classic car, muscle car, or hot rod to perform mundane errands, getting prepared for the Memorial Day weekend, then you are part of the Motormouth Radio Honor Group of the Hour this weekend. There you
I
go.
picked up a bike from a friend last week, and I told you I shoved it in the trunk of the GTO to bring it home, and I was going to bring it to a bike shop a few towns away, and I strapped it to the back of the Fiat. So yes, I use all my cars as trucks. I don't care. They're all there
Perfect.
for that. Okay, so we'll take this quick break. We'll be back, Carl. We have a little Carl-inspired outro for this intro outro for this bit, and we'll be back. We'll make it a quick break this time, because we have a lot more to talk about EVs with Chris Switzer, Ray Guarino, Carl Anthony, and MatcoMan Brian here on 90.3 WHPC. Hang for a second.
This is Motormouth Radio, your 1-hour automotive talk show. And now, here are your Motormouths, Chris Switzer and Ray Guarino.
This show on 90.3 WHPC is brought to you by CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision, with 2 locations in Limerick and Oceanside, who remind you that New York state law says you always have the right to choose which shop will fix your car. CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision offers a full range of services: 24-hour towing between Montauk and Manhattan, shuttle service, and they can help you with a rental car arrangement if needed. All repairs include the CarStar lifetime nationwide warranty, ensuring that the experts at Celebrity Chase Collision are always on your side.
Y sí, hablamos español.
More information is available at 516-593-0920 or online at celebritychasecollision.com.
Hey, you, get over here. Every Sunday, 12 to 1, you are going to tune in to hear the Motor Mouths, my friends Ray Guarino and Chris Switzer. 90.3 FM, WHPC. You might learn something.
I think our good friend Chassis John is right. Today, if you listen, you just might learn something, because we have enough of a brain trust here to actually put that through. So, Brian, the point that you made before that I wanted to get back to, which I think is kind of in this day and age hilarious, how people are now already figuring out how to steal the copper wire from the charging stations. I mean, it's not bad if they took gutters off of houses and plumbing out of houses. You know, this stuff is new, and they're ripping it off already. You think that the municipalities will do something like they did with catalytic converters? I mean, here in New York, I talked to guys in shops. They can't even sell the catalytic converters legit anymore, because guys they won't take them, even though it's legit.
You're absolutely right, Ray. Catalytic converters around here. I have a scrap metal guy coming. From Thursday's show, if anybody listen, I'm in the process of cleaning out, getting rid of stuff. I got a dumpster out front and everything, and I got my metal pile. And the guy even told me, I got a guy coming in June. He says, I'm not taking any catalytic converters. Right. He says they've made it so ridiculous and so hard now, it's not even worth the money to sell or to trade in.
So what they backwards engineered it and said, okay, we'll shut it down for everybody. I wonder if they're going to do something like that with, wire. Kind of wire is everywhere.
Yeah. But I just find, of course, I love the article here. It was, and of course, they used the word Tesla charging stations. And of course, it wasn't against Tesla for the charging stations. They made it real clear that people were coming in, cutting the wires, and selling the cable. Now, I don't know if they're going to make it where the manufacturer now comes with your charging cable. I think it's kind of funny that you buy a car and now they're going to charge you for a cable. It's right. Like getting soup with no spoon. Right. I just, again, I find this all really fascinating, and I guess the greed out of it to a point. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to do about trying to keep people from taking the cables now.
Interesting point. I want to mention before I forget that people can call us today and talk with these guys, 516-572-7440. Or this show is being recorded for YouTube. So you can go to our YouTube channel, Motormouth Video, later on tonight, and you can watch this and soak it all in. And if you do, if you go visit us on Motormouth Radio on Facebook or _Motormouth Radio on Instagram, do me a favor. I told people I'd never say this, but now I have to say, like it. Throw a comment up there. Just say, hey, this is great. It really helps move the algorithm along. Oz has stalled. So it's nice that people like it. Just, a 2-word comment. I guess that's, you know what? And you say the word and the phone rings. So let's do this.
Is that any 2 words, Ray?
Any 2 words. Any 2 words.
So let's go to the
Any
phone.
2 words you want to comment. That works.
We'll say, hi, Caller. You're
I'm
on
good for it.
Mounts.
Hello, Ray, Chris, and Brian.
Brian, and we have Carl Anthony from Automoblog.
Carl Anthony. Good afternoon, guys. I'd also like to do a shout out to all our veterans, those who gave it all and have served. Thank them for that, because tomorrow's their day.
Amen to
Very
that.
true.
I got a question for you guys. What are your thoughts? We keep going software, hardware. There's been software in cars since we went to electronic radios.
Sure.
Right.
All the chips in them are programmed with software. The Voyager that got launched 50 years ago had software in it. It had an issue, and they were able to update it. It's still software. It's on a chip somewhere in the thing, but hardware is something physical that you can see.
Right.
Software is anywhere on a chip, hard drive, USB drive inside.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. And in Detroit, in the industry, there would be a number of people who would bring up that exact same point. Hey, we've been using electronics in cars for a long time. Maybe software-defined vehicles is just a marketing term.
Yeah, I gotta agree on that, because even on subscription-based stuff and how it's still in business, I'll pull the brain trust on this call. OnStar. How many people do you know that go, I love OnStar?
You got to find a person who was upside down in a ditch and push the button.
Yeah.
Well,
My iPhone does that without.
Yeah.
I'll be the evil guy. And say, unfortunately, I think the software issue is they're not happy until they have complete control over something and not being hacked. And that technology changes so fast. I think they can't keep up with that change. As soon as they think they have, somebody's already linked out how to break into it.
Sure.
Well, jailbreaking
way
phones.
many more hackers than there are software engineers.
John, let me explain to these fellows. They don't know you like I know you. John is one of the original software guys who could get into stuff and make things happen magically that nobody else could do. And I'm going back
to all the college systems, which is how I got hired there.
I'm going back to the 80s. I mean, he was the guy. They gave me a card when I started that said, this is the guy you call. Hopefully he'll like you because he'll come back. And today we still have yes, he did. He came back. So yeah, John understands this stuff 110%. And he's like, look at it this way. We all have a car with an engine computer, an ECU. That parameter is locked down. We can't change any of those parameters. You can if you can get into the system. And that's how, for years they've had that with controllers. Sometimes they go in line. Sometimes used to change the chip in the on the computer. But for the most part, that computer it's said and done. That you get what you get. Now, maybe you'd like it tweaked a little differently. That doesn't matter. You can't get that. You have what they gave you. And like Brian said, they have complete control over it.
Right.
That's one of the... Brian will tell you, you can go in and tweak many things through some of the newer scanners. Not everything.
No. Well, the aftermarket, like I said, the aftermarket responded with first it was onboard, chips. Then it was, dongles that went in between in the cable, and then it was complete computers that you would change. And it got a little harder through the years, but it certainly is still happening. One of the guys at the shop has a Mustang, and he had to fail his car inspection so he can get an extra 10 days to put the stock program back in it, and he had to drive it through like 2 tanks of gas. He was on E85. He had to go back to regular gas, drive it for like 2 tankfuls of gas so that the program would set, that he could
And
go
have a drive cycle.
get his inspection, and then change it all again. So
all the sensors had a.
Wow.
it's still going on. It still goes on. See, that's what I kind of like about the aftermarket stuff, like the Holly system I put in my car. I have control over it. I can go in there and change those parameters. It's dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, and that's why I really haven't screwed too deeply with it, you know.
Yeah, you can hurt yourself with the scanner, but there were so many aftermarket companies. Like I installed a backup camera that didn't come stock in my Dodge Ram 1500 in 2016. I bought an OEM from the dealer and plugged it in, and had to go back to the dealer to have them flip whatever bit on to say, yeah, it's got a backup camera.
Right.
And they were aftermarket, you know, it was a plug that you could put on to the ODB2 port, and it had a procedure, and it did pretty much the same thing as opposed to going to the dealer.
Right.
So the aftermarket is figuring it out as fast as the manufacturers are putting the speed bumps in place.
So now let me, Carl, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
I know we talk about aftermarket in that regard where high performance is concerned. We always talk about that. But now, does that somehow tie into the right to repair law?
I was just thinking that.
You stole it.
Because I know they don't want us doing that. They don't want the aftermarket companies doing it because it's their baby. So, you know, I put that out there.
I was literally just thinking that as I've been listening to this conversation. So we'll use our fictional example. I'm Anthony Motors. Okay. I sell a vehicle to Chris, and Chris is like, but I'm a gearhead. I'm a motor mouth radio guy. I want to work on my car. But I tell Chris, oh, no, you don't. That's intellectual property under the hood. That's my intellectual property. You can only take it to one of my predetermined places, i.e. dealerships. Now, this is where right to repair comes in. And so, yes, Ray, I was thinking that the entire time.
But the manufacturers are now going to a protective system, and it's auto off. It's a third party to watch, because you register your scanner to that company, and they're keeping tracks on who's going in and who's doing what to what car. And that's supposed to be the watchdog, and it's a third party. Chrysler did this back in 2016, and people were saying, hey, I can't get into my Chrysler. I can't do this. And then it went into Jeep. This year, it's Ford is starting on some of their cars. And I think next year, Toyota, Lexus. And we've already just got the notification on Nissan. And that's, again, trying to see who is going in and who's doing what. That's a third party basically watching what's going on in that. So
yeah,
you can still do it, but they're just making it's no longer the easy days of just plugging in and doing what you need to do. There's a watchdog for everything, and hopefully nobody's
it's like
corrupt.
We talk about the cameras everywhere. You know, now, yes, anything that has electronics, you are being watched without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, John, what do you think about that? It's
Welcome to 1984.
Yeah, George Orwell said it, right? Yes.
Perfect.
He was way ahead of his time, but yeah. There's so many places that your data is going that nobody even knows.
True.
It's frightening.
Right.
That's why sometimes I wonder when I'm going into these shops and I find these guys now working on pre-90 cars. There's a lot of cars being fixed up, and I'm like, this is kind of crazy. And then now, hey, I don't want to be seen. The bad guys are now driving old style G bodies because they don't want somebody turning it off or putting the electric shock button on it or whatever that they got. It's going back, I guess, hopefully, because I don't know, Carl, you can maybe correct numbers. I think they started out with $7,500 towards electric cars, and I just read now it's like $12,500 is past clean the streets. Remember Cash for Clunkers? And here,
Yeah, right.
Brian,
I remember
gotta
Cash
say
for
that
Clunkers.
The powers that be are listening to you today because they're putting some weird blocks on your signal. You're getting, it was just your video before, but now you're
I
audio.
know. I got
Well, there's
man.
this.
The blackbird sitting in the driveway.
Yeah.
Well, this idea of
EMI pulse, we're back to ground zero, except most of the cars in your collection.
Yes. Well, correct. All right, John. Well, thanks for the call. We appreciate it, brother, as always.
Guys, have a great day, great show, and happy Memorial Day to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, happy Memorial Day.
And thanks for and John, thanks for broadcasting from the side of the road.
Yeah, well, that's his driveway. Yeah.
Good to talk to you, John.
Thanks, John. We'll talk to you
I'm
soon.
going to watch the vet now and take it for.
You do that. It's a beautiful
right,
day
That's
for
a
it.
plan.
You got it.
All right. Bye-bye. Very good.
It's funny, Carl. I've always talked about carb people. I've always said that there's going to be this
Oh, yeah.
group of individuals that are just going to be driving like Chevy Chevelles with 6-cylinder engines and 1-barrel carburetors, and they will never be detected by anybody or anything. They're just going to be non-technological as far as the transportation is concerned. So,
I
yeah.
tell you, Thursday night before I got bounced off the air, we're talking about points. It's like, save. I have a little collection of vintage points and condensers that work. The new stuff, I told these guys how I put new points in Mike's Buick that time, and the dwell was way off and nothing was right. Only when I took an old set out of his son's old point distributor and put them in, then the thing worked right. And I still can't understand how physically the set of points did that, but I know it did because I was a guy working on a car. Yeah, keep your old points, and that's your bug out vehicle. Like I said, Dan Short knows all about that.
Well, they'll keep that. They'll start playing with fuel here. I mean, gas is not gas from 20 years ago.
Oh, no.
And these. I was actually kind of funny. I was in a shop the other day, and the guy was like, "Man, this carburetor. We're going to do something with this carburetor." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, it was like a year and a half ago. I just had this thing. I rebuilt the carburetor, and here we are again." And I'm like, "Well, is you running any kind of ethanol block? Are you?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I mean, this is a guy that's in the business, and he's even saying, "What do you mean ethanol block?"
Right.
I said, "Well, the ethanol's too high, and the guy doesn't drive the car, doesn't cycle the gas through. This is why you're having, you got to go to the store and get some ethanol block or cleanup." And he's like, "Wow, I'll have to tell him that because he's at the point where he wants to do something."
We're going to go back to the phones and say to the caller, you're on the motor mounts.
Hey, how you doing today?
What's up, Joe?
Like last minute.
Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Yep.
What's up?
Well, you're talking about software-driven cars. There's actually, I remember hearing that a car company put in for a patent for a self-driving vehicle. If you miss your payments, they can electronically repo it.
They put Lewis Lee out of work, right? They'll electronically drive it out of your driveway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't either. No.
I mean-
and it'll probably be an EV tow truck that'll come pick it up, an autonomous tow truck that'll pick it up and haul it out.
That's charged at the tree.
Yeah. Yeah, like, you know what? I saw a video a while ago about Amazon, and they have robots in their warehouse. Literally go. It's like in the city. It's a labyrinth of cross streets.
Yeah.
And they know when to stop. They know when to they know when to wait, and they know when their battery is low. They go back home and they dock and they recharge. Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing.
Very cool.
And
That's a great use.
thing, before you have to bail out, you guys are talking about with charging issues and everything and panicking over where to charge.
Uh-huh.
I think I've sent you a few photos of joke things on the internet where it's like a trailer with a gas generator.
Right.
While they're driving.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's
Right.
the whole thing. There's your climate control, right?
Well, if you remember back in the days of us being kids, your parents say, "Don't leave home without a quarter, so at least you can call somebody." Well, my new one now to the kids are, "Don't leave without an extension cord because you never know when you need to plug in."
Yeah.
Thanks for the call, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Have a good one.
All right.
Be
All right,
safe,
so
Joe.
We're getting toward the end run here. We got to talk about final comments so we don't run too late. So I don't know. What do we think?
I've got not so much a final comment, but a final compliment, because, and I think this is important because I love this show and I've been so honored to be part of it for the last 9 years. But I mentioned that I was at that event, that software defined vehicles event, about at the beginning of the month, and I was moderating a panel. And as part of the moderator, there was a person that read my bio to introduce me as moderator of the panel. And in my bio, it says that I'm a regular contributor to Motormouth Radio. And so after the panel was done, somebody came up to me and we were talking. He was not from Detroit. He was just in town on other business, but had come to this event. And he said, is WHPC a Detroit station? I said, no. So I explained Nassau Community College and the whole thing. And he said, well, when is it on? I said, you can listen on Sundays. And I said, and I took my phone out and I pulled up the Spotify playlist, the Motormouth Spotify playlist. And I said, here's what you need to do. I said, if you want to immerse yourself in this show, and I went back to April and I said, here's Road Trip and Rodents. Here's Ford Cobra Jet 428. That was the episode title with the Molly Hatchet music.
Right.
The Serpentine Belt episode and the MatcoMan Mustangs and More episode.
Yeah.
I said, those 4 episodes, I said, totally encapsulate what Motormouth Radio is all about. So I'm explaining this to him as I'm showing him Spotify on my phone. And I said, in the Cobra 428 episode, the Cobra Jet 428 with the Molly Hatchet music, I said, Ron, the pizza guy, who will drive anywhere for the perfect pizza pie. He calls, he's got a project car. It's a 69 Fairlane. I said, these are the types of callers that regularly call on Motormouth. These guys know cars 6 ways from Sunday. This is what they do. And I say, you know, Chris and Ray as hosts, this is what these guys do. I said, if you really want to get into this show, start with those 4 episodes. And then, and MatcoMan Brian, I got to pay you a compliment. Listening to you during the benefit shows, the fundraising shows, when you're talking, Brian, about the importance of mentorship and passing on car knowledge to the next generation, I was listening to that show and I was like, this is a side of Brian I've never seen before. And it was awesome. So I said all this to this. Yeah, I said all this to this gentleman that had come up to me at that event. It was at the beginning of May, the night of May 8th. And he was asking about Motormouth Radio. And he said, oh yeah, is that a thing in Detroit? And I said, no, I said, but it's out in Long Island. And I said, these guys, they know cars. But yeah, Brian, tremendous compliment to you. When you're talking about knowledge sharing like that, man, I was listening, I was driving, I thought, this is a wonderful side of Brian I've never seen before. And this is why I love this show so much. And the fact that you guys are even wanting me to come into your universe is a high compliment to me.
Paul, we respect and thank you so much because you have a class act in automoblog.net or .com. It is a fantastic website filled with fantastic knowledge. So we take that as a compliment. Yeah,
not to get all warm and fuzzy, but I give everybody a bear hug. I appreciate my passion of being down and dirty with the car and tools. I love it. I appreciate the compliment. Hopefully I can keep on. One day I'll take over, but hey, you know, when that time comes, we'll wait and see what happens.
Because I'm going to get a knife in the back. I got to get out of here.
I love it.
Coming in, we stayed too late. We got to go. Thank you all you guys. We'll talk privately. We'll be back next week. Chris, we'll see you. For Chris Switzer, Ray Guarino, Carl Anthony, and MatcoMan Brian. This is Motormouth Radio. Thank you, fellas. Signing out on 90.3 WHPC. See ya.
Don't follow us home.
No way.
This show on 90.3 WHPC is brought to you by CarStar Celebrity Chase Collision, with 2 locations in Limerick and Oceanside, who remind you that New York state law says you always have the right to choose which shop will fix your car. CarStar